Welcome back to another episode of It's in the Details. As always, please remember to share, like, subscribe, rate, review, comment wherever you get the show. Your support is appreciated. This weekend and week has been a very sports heavy week for me. Very sports heavy. There's a lot going on. It's not going to be all sports today, but there's a lot of sports. I'm primarily focused this week on dreamers, and most of sports is that. Like, people as children dreamt that they'd be able to achieve amazing things in sports at large. You know what I mean? F1 was hot this weekend. Finally, F1 had a little 4-week break. They came back and they had a race that wasn't a race. Maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't. But this past weekend, they were in Netherlands. Netherlands is the home country of one Max Verstappen. And in watching all the pre-race stuff, qualifying, practice, all of those things, I realized I don't like him. I don't like him even a little bit. I'm not particularly fond of how he drives. I'm not particularly fond of what he says. I don't really like looking at him. He doesn't seem like a nice individual. All of these things are going through my head. Furthermore, what's going through my head is I just found F1 again for my life, right? Had it for a little while, forgot about it, stopped paying attention. Now I'm back, right? And what it dawned on me was I don't like the guy who's about to be the guy. Lewis is going to retire a year, 2 years, 4 years. He's going to retire at some point. And then for the next 10, 12 years, Max is probably going to be the guy. And I don't like him. Can you imagine signing up to watch a thing where you don't like the protagonist, the number one dude in the sport? So that dawned on me. Then I started watching all the stuff that past weekend. And I gotta say, I started liking him. I feel like some commentators were explaining some things about how he drives, and I started hearing him in some press conferences and things, and I was like, oh my God, do I like Max? I think I was, there's a cheer and a thing associated with Max that goes Max, Max, Super Max. I was walking around my house saying it to myself. I think I became a Max Verstappen fan over the weekend, and again, I think I know how it happened, but I'm not sure. And the previews, the intro videos, they were showing him in a very positive light, as they should, right? They know they have to develop their next star, and he's at his home race. It's the first time they had that race in over 30 years, and he was on pole position. It looked like he was probably going to win, so why not sell him full steam ahead? And that sounds like Max driving by right now. Then it dawned on me, did I start liking Max, or did they make me start liking Max? Did their marketing work on me when I didn't even notice? Like, they showed a press conference from a few years back where Lewis Hamilton is at the front of the podium, and he looks back at Max and goes, "You were born in 1997?" Just putting in your mind, yeah, this guy is a child. He's been doing all of this stuff for many years. Before I even started paying attention to F1 again, he's been killing it. And he was born in 1997. I don't know how many of you listening were born in 1997. I think most of you could probably remember what you were doing in 1997. But they showed that. He's a prodigy, right? You're like, oh, prodigies are always great. How do you not like a prodigy? Then there were all these clips of him winning and cheering with his fans and smiling. I've been watching F1 for over a year now. I think I've seen him smile 5 times, and 4 of them were in the previews for this race that just happened last weekend. So I'm not sure what happened, but it happened. And I think I'm kind of cheering for Max a little bit from time to time. I know I'm a neutral. I'm mostly neutral, right? I'll take any story. I'm happy for anybody to win. I'm mostly neutral. But I definitely was not cheering for Max before this past weekend. And now I think I am. And it makes me uncomfortable. I didn't like him. I didn't like his team. I didn't like the manager. I didn't like anything they seemed to stand for. I like Sergio Perez. I like him a lot, but I didn't like anything about them. Even Christian, the head man, I call him Ruthless Spice, the head man, Christian Horner, I definitely did not like him, and I still don't like him. But even this weekend, Christian was like cordial and like civil, like he was acting like a decent human being. He even shouted out another team for managing some stuff in the pit lane that they didn't have to manage, but they managed because it helped Red Bull. And we would have never seen it. We wouldn't have known about it unless he brought it up. And he made a point to shout them out for some good stuff they did. It was a weird weekend. Very weird. Yeah, even the Dutch fans, the fans out there in Holland, they were out there respectful, cheering for Lewis. If there were boos, they were drowned out by cheers. It was quite a weekend. It was a spectacle. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think I'm cheering for Supermax. Wow. But he was a dreamer. You don't get to Formula One by the age of, I think, 19 without being a dreamer, having dreams and chasing them down, right? And F1 continues to display their dominance at marketing and advertising their sport, okay? We are halfway through the season. Teams are trying to lock down their drivers for next season already. There's been many rumors about George Russell, who you may have heard me talk about earlier this year, about being a star. He signed with Mercedes as a driver in the Mercedes team, but he hasn't been on their team until this week. He signed with Mercedes. But before that came out, it came out that Kimi Räikkönen, a superstar, weird guy. He, from all reports, he sounds very funny, right? But Kimi Räikkönen is retiring, and we find out Valtteri Bottas, Lewis's partner at Mercedes, is going to be moving to Alfa Romeo, where Kimi Räikkönen was. We find that out on like Monday, okay? Tuesday, we find out that George Russell is going to be driving for Mercedes next year, okay? So they gave you a day to process Valtteri, then they gave you a day to process George Russell, and then we find out Red Bull driver Alex Albon, who hasn't been racing in Formula One this year, but did the year before, found out he's got a job at Williams, taking George Russell's seat, and we find that out today. So Wednesday, they get all their glory. They don't step on anybody's toes. They do it all nice and neat. The news coverage can focus on these things, but I tell you what, you're going to be focusing on us each day of the week. Okay? You'll be focused on us on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We had a race on Sunday, the Sunday before. We had qualifying the day before that. Thursday, they go to Italy for a big race for Ferrari and Alfa Romeo because that's their hometown, right? That starts Thursday, Friday, about 10 straight days of real news from F1. Okay? Alex Albon probably could not have dreamt he would have gotten another opportunity to race for an F1 team. There's only 20 jobs, and he flamed out of one, right? His dreams come true. George Russell, dreaming of driving for Mercedes. He tore it up last year filling in when Lewis Hamilton had COVID. His dreams come true. He gets to sign with Mercedes and drive for Mercedes. Valtteri has been a very serviceable driver throughout the years, so I can tell from results. And his dreams come true because once you lose a Formula One job, it's hard to get back in. F1. Beautiful. There are other dreamers. Like, you've heard me talk about the WNBA. And there's something called the W Series. I don't know if you know what the W Series is, but the W Series is Formula One racing essentially for women. There's a women's circuit. And they seem to be propped up in many ways by the same people that help uplift Formula One, right? Sky Sports seems to be the broadcaster we get our stuff from here in Canada, and TSN airs it. And the W Series has done a great job, for me, of marketing their drivers, right? The WNBA has not so much for me. And I'm not sure why. And you heard me talk about the WNBA months back. I've watched quite a few games. I haven't necessarily caught all of them right from the beginning. So this point might not be valid. But like last week, I was watching a WNBA game. And they showed the starting lineups. And it was just names. Just names of the athletes. And that bothered me immensely. Because I'm still learning the WNBA. I know the stars, and that's it. So all the regular ladies in the WNBA, they could walk by me on the street and I wouldn't know who they are. How dare you put up graphics that don't include these women's faces? Why? How much does it cost? Put these ladies' faces on screen with their names as often as possible. If you've got ravenous sports fans, they consume everything, right? And I'm close to that. You got ravenous sports fans, they're probably going to learn all these people's names at some point, right? But if you've got someone on the fringe, say maybe someone who listens to my podcast, a WNBA game's on, they turn on the game, they don't know any of these people, they need to feel familiar. They need to know who these people are and what makes them feel comfortable watching them play this sport. And if you can't identify them or know any of their names, strike one, man. Strike one. These are just ladies bouncing the basketball, trying to put it through a hoop. Put up their faces as much as possible. I brought up the W Series because the W Series is interviewing these ladies before the races. They're interviewing their ladies, helmets off, standing next to their car, in their fire suits. And you get to meet these ladies and find out who they are, find out what they sound like, find out how they think. And you build a relationship, air quote, relationship with these people through the screen who you did not know. And because they wear a helmet, you definitely can't identify them while they're driving around a course at 150 miles per hour, but they give you their faces. Give it to you all the time so you recognize them, right? And if you were a little kid dreaming to be in the WNBA and they're announcing you or the telecast is showing your name, that's great, but wouldn't you want to see your face up there? Every Raptors game, every Lakers game, all of these big NBA games that happen, when they show you the starting lineups, you best believe you're going to see these faces, and you know all these guys. You know what? You know these guys. You don't need to see their faces to start the game. When LeBron takes the court, when Kyle Lowry takes the court, Steph Curry, even the rookies come through the draft. You know these people, right? But they give you their face anyway. WNBA, step it up. Step it up. Help the people, help your people. Okay, so this is a full service recommendation you're about to get. Full service. Multiple platforms, okay? Have you ever heard of a woman named Elizabeth Holmes? Elizabeth Holmes is an entrepreneur. Elizabeth Holmes is a college dropout. Elizabeth Holmes is on trial for fraud. Okay? There is a documentary I want you to see. It's called The Inventor, Out for Blood in Silicon Valley. Now, where do I start? Elizabeth Holmes, smart lady, smart kid, kind of a loner. She said her best friends were books. Anytime someone says that, red flag. Red flag. Your best friends could be friends, humans. They could be dogs, cats. They could be imaginary. Your best friends can't be books, okay? They can't be books. It's just, they can't be books. So, Elizabeth Holmes, very smart lady. She went to Stanford, I believe, and drops out. She drops out. She drops out because she thinks she has an idea that can help her make millions and billions and also help the world. And it's not all smooth sailing, let's say. I'm going to spoil parts of the documentary. It's a documentary, and I told you she's on trial, so you know how a lot of it goes. But the documentary is still spectacular, and you should watch it. She's on trial, like I said. It started at the end of August. They're picking the jury now, or they've just picked the jury, and they're about to start the trial. I don't know if we're going to see the trial on the news, really, but if you watch the documentary and listen to the podcast The Dropout, where they dig into some of the history, they dig into the business, and then they've started a second season about the trial, right? So The Dropout is the podcast I want you to listen to, and The Inventor, Out for Blood in Silicon Valley, is the documentary I want you to watch. She is a very interesting person. The documentary starts out, Elizabeth, what are your hopes for by the year 2025? And she answers, I hope that all Americans have better access to their healthcare information. Then they asked, Elizabeth, what do you dream for 2025? And she said, I dream and hope that less people lose their loved ones. And then they said, Elizabeth, do you have any secrets? And she went silent. And her eyes start to dart around. And she says, I don't really have many secrets. But Elizabeth, your face said, I've got so many secrets, I don't even know which secrets I can tell without going to jail. That's what her face said. This is 35 seconds into the documentary, okay? And really, the jumping off point from there is you've got a person with a dream, you've got a person with a story, and the story can tug on your heartstrings, and it definitely tugged on some purse strings, okay? Elizabeth has a story about her uncle getting sick. He had blood tests, he had some cancer, he passed. Sad for that, definitely. But he had to have some blood tests, and they would take this big needle and stick it in his arm. Elizabeth has always been scared of needles. So she came up with a plan for a machine they then called Edison, like Thomas Edison, a great inventor who also had some problems with his inventions. But they come up with this machine where they could test hundreds of tests, hundreds, from a single prick of your fingertip. And the blood you could gather from a little finger prick of blood. Well, the problem with that is it's not really possible. It's not really possible. She got the smartest people to work with this company. She got all sorts of high-powered individuals. Her story was really compelling. It also helped that she was a woman. It helped that she was a woman. The women around were more than happy to look up to this woman as an idol. The company at one point was valued at over $9 billion. So the women were happy to look at this woman who, by the time it was valued at $9 billion, I think she was in her mid-20s. So she'd been working on this thing, mid to late 20s. She'd been working on this company for about 10 years. She dropped out, like I said, 19 and started this company. The names of the people, the names of the people that jumped on board with her company will knock you off your couch. Okay? You've got investors who were first on board with Oracle and Uber and Facebook, all these guys that are like investors. They like to chase down that next thing. They were on board with her. She got professors from Stanford that she was a student with. She got professors to leave their jobs as department heads to come help out with this piece of equipment that people thought would revolutionize what could be called a problematic healthcare system in the United States. So you've got this wonderful dream of a story. You've got the United States healthcare system maybe being a little problematic. I'm not saying it. I don't know enough about their healthcare system. I just know what the news tells me. Who knows? But she got them all on board to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars these people were investing. And like I said, that machine don't work. Not even a little bit. Not to get too far down the road and just spoil everything for you. But they're up for fraud. They're on trial for fraud. And the rubber meets the road, if you will, when they signed a big contract with Walgreens in the United States to have this machine installed and do testing on regular people in the wild. You can imagine how that goes. You got to see it. Elizabeth is a very visually striking person. I don't mean that to say she's attractive or unattractive. She is visually striking, captivating. People who interviewed with her tell stories about her never blinking. Okay? Big blue eyes, never blink, very intense, dyed blonde hair. She wears black turtlenecks like, I don't know, that guy who created Apple. Her voice is several octaves lower than anyone in her early life ever remember it being. She is a treasure trove of idiosyncrasies. You got to see it. You might have seen, I hear there's a 60 Minutes piece. There are articles in the Wall Street Journal, I believe. Like, there's a lot of stuff on this lady. She was doing the thing for a long time. But you just can't believe what you see when you watch this document. The military was involved, sort of. It's a lot, guys. It's a lot. The trial's on. I'm going to see if I can track down some of the trial stuff. But it has me riveted. Okay? listen to The Dropout, watch The Inventor, Out for Blood in Silicon Valley. They won't disappoint. Once again, thank you very much for joining us here on It's in the Details. As always, please remember to share, like, subscribe, rate, review, comment wherever you get the show. We'll see you in a week, y'all. Take care. Peace.